Hey there, this is Death Star Killer, and now I'm going to do a video on how I create thumbnails, just to help anybody out there who might want to do the same thing. There's so many different ways of making thumbnails. You can use Photoshop, you can use, I think there's a program called Canva or Canvas that a lot of people use. I personally use the editing programs that I use for making the actual videos themselves. So for me, I can use all three. I can use Final Cut Pro 10, Premiere Pro and DaVinci, but mostly I use Final Cut Pro 10 because that's what I learned on it and that's what I'm fastest on. So that's what I'm going to be showing you in this, plus my whole process of what I do. I'll disappear for a second and pop back in. Ha! So I'm going to go through how I would create a thumbnail for that. I've already thought of it in my head, so that's always a good step. Now, not everyone's going to create thumbnails the way I do. Generally, my thumbnails are something from a video game or a movie, and I just replace my face on it somewhere. So, as it's Indiana Jones, I'm thinking of the scene where he gets rid of the idol and replaces it with the sandbag. Now, this isn't exactly original because I've already looked around and there's already a bunch of videos that people have made on the Indiana Jones box set where they just replace the idol with the box set. But I'm going to do a little bit more than that. I'm going to replace the idol with the box set, but I'm also going to put my face over Indy's, and then this is totally a visual gag that only filmmakers, camera people like me will get. But hell, I'm going to get it, and that's where I get my fun. So what I'm thinking of doing is the sandbag that he uses to replace the idol. I'm going to replace that with the sandbags that we use weighing down lighting stands. I think it's funny. It's my channel. I'll do what I want to. Okay, right. Okay, so let's get started. I'll do the first thing. So what I generally do is I have a laptop over here with the image on it, just so that I have a reference, so I know that I'm going to get my eyeline right. Eyeline is very important. You know, we can all tell straight away if somebody isn't looking at what they're supposed to be looking at. That's why in movies, when they're dealing with creatures and things like that, there's like a tennis ball or an X or something for the actors to look at. Because if the monster's here and you're looking over there or over there, we notice that stuff straight away. So try and make sure you're getting the eyeline right if what you're doing is copying something from a movie or an album cover or a video game or whatever. So anyway, if you look at, I'll go into voiceover mode. Pop! So hopefully the image is there now and I'm just speaking over it. So if you look at this image here, you can tell that there's daylight popping in from a hole in the ceiling. That's kind of white bluish light that's hitting the top of the idol. And then we're led to believe that that is lighting Indy's face a kind of a goldy orange color because the sunlight's hitting it. Now obviously that's not the way it works, and there's probably a light just out of shot, just underneath Harrison Ford, lighting his face, the kind of goldy yellow color. So I'm gonna replicate that. So this is the Neewer 660 RGB LED, which I spoke about before. It's the light that I usually have here when I'm at home on the couch, and it's usually at 5600 and 12%, and that's what lights the side of my face up nicely. So anyway, it's a great light, mains powered or the Sony MPF batteries. It's got a good display on the back, all the rest. See, right now it's at 15%, 360 hue, and AO, I don't know what AO stands for, other than I know that's full saturation. So you can tell, like, it's got good barn doors on it for blocking the light where you don't want it to go. Whoa! So it's red at the moment because the last thing I filmed was a Resident Evil game, and I always put it on red for that. So anyway, let's change it. Ooh, there's cops and stuff. Lightning. And there's daylight. Right, so I'm going to put it on a stand. Here it is on a light stand. I'm going to place it as low as I can, which unfortunately my light stands are all huge because I need them to be able to take all sorts of lights, big ones as well, because that's my job. So switch it back on. Boop. Now I'm going to change it. It's a 5600 at the moment, which is daylight, or kind of a blue light a lot of times on camera. And I'm going to change it to 3200 Kelvin, which is tungsten, which is kind of what old bulbs would be. It's kind of a pleasing yellow light. What I'm going to do now is get my phone. So now I know the rear camera is always the better, well, I'm not going to say always the better quality because phones these days are getting crazy. But this is an old Galaxy S9 Plus, I think. And I'm going to use the front facing camera, the selfie camera. And I'm going to put it somewhere here. Right. Okay. Once I can see my face in the phone and I'm looking the right direction and the light looks about right, then I'm just going to take the selfie. Now I'm lucky that I don't have to do the top daylight light on this shot because he's wearing a hat. So daylight would only be hitting his hat. So my face is cool just being yellow. But I think it's a bit bright right now, so I'm going to change it to, what's that, 23%. Let's try 15%. Now I'm going to turn off this light just for a minute because that's going to mess with things. Right, still a bit too bright. That's not bad now. So again, trying to get the eye line right, I'm going to pretend that I'm looking straight into the top corner here of this this light, pretending it's the idle, and I'm going to take a picture. I always put a timer on the camera so I can press it, get in position, and boom. 2 seconds is usually enough, or you can go for 5, but sometimes you feel like an idiot waiting there for it. There's the timer. Now let's have a quick look at that picture. That looks good. I think I can work with that. Right, so next we need to get the picture of the sandbag. If you look at the image from the movie, I'll bring it up there again, you'll see that the daylight again is hitting the top of the sandbag, and then the bottom of it is all yellow from the idle. So we're going to replace that. This time though, I'm going to turn this light here into the daylight. So turn it off. Another very handy thing about these lights is the spigot. I think they call it the spigot. Get out! Here allows you to mount it onto a stand in different ways. So in 2 different ways. So I'm going to put it in the 90-degree one, just so that I can have it pointing straight down. Switch it on. Change it from 3200 back to 5600, which is daylight. And then 100% it. Put it up as high as it'll go. Boop. And boop. I might turn it around. So that's our daylight coming straight down. I'm going to use my other light. This is the Apurture MC. Great little light. This is the one where in my other videos it's on that side of me, and it's the one that usually lights me blue. So like it's got all sorts of gimmicks on it. Like what you're seeing there is 5600 daylight, but you can go to HSI, which means you can dial in any color you want. It's also got effects, So that's fire. It's very subtle, but it's doing a little bit of a flicker every so often. It's got all sorts of other things, and there's the police. Oh shit, they've got me. Okay, it's also got a magnet on it. So I often just whack onto whatever I want. Well, I'm not going to use the stand for this. Don't need the stand for it. I won't stand for it. Dear God, the jokes. Change this to 3200 so that it's the yellowy orange, whatever. And we'll see 26. I'd say that's not bright enough. We'll go higher. Great light. It's got an internal battery on it as well. Lasts about maybe an hour if you were to have it at 100%. 2 hours if you were to go less. So I'm just going to check with my hands first to see what way the light's hitting it. So that's daylight hitting the top. Let's try 60%. Yeah, it's pretty good. Grab my sandbag. Sandbag. So yes, pretty good. Yeah, take a picture. It'll last longer. One more just for good measure. I'm not doing it here, but I do suggest if you're doing this yourself, take a good few pictures, looking in different areas if you're trying to do the eyeline thing, because it's not as annoying as going back to edit this later, importing all the photos and finding out none of them work. So take a good few. That gives you a good chance of having the right one.